warm welcome. You're watching the Question Hour show from the Parliament House complex, where we compile and bring important unstarred questions that were asked by the members of the upper house during the recently concluded session. I'm Kriti Mishra, and joining me is my colleague Vishal Daya.
Well, thank you so much, Kriti. So let's take our viewers through some important questions in this particular segment of Question Hour. And the first question is to the Ministry of Civil Aviation, and this one has been asked by member Syed Nasir Hussain, who wants to know from the government whether it has conducted any study to assess the problems created due to laser lights in the airport areas.
The government says that laser lights are regulated under the provisions of Rules 65 and 66 of the Aircraft Rules 1937. To ensure the safety of the aircraft against hazardous effects of laser emitters, the DGCA has established the following protected zones around aerodromes. That include a laser beam freeze light zone, a laser beam critical flight zone, and a laser beam sensitive flight zone. The aerodrome operator of IGI Airport has established laser protected zones for the airport as per the directions of the DGCA. Further, orders for banning use of laser lights in and around IGI Airport are issued on a regular basis by SDM, Vasant Vihar, and also Delhi Police. The next question is also to the Ministry of Civil Aviation, and this one has been asked by member T. Subbarami Reddy, and Mr. Reddy has asked whether airlines operating in India have hired foreign pilots to operate domestic and international flights.
Well, the response from the Civil Aviation Ministry to this question is in affirmative, and the ministry says that the number of foreign pilots hired by airlines in India for the last 3 years are: in 2017, this was 249, 2018, the number was 324, and in 2019, till 10th of June, this number was 404. Further, the ministry says that there is a shortage of type-related pilots in command, instructor or examiner in the country. To overcome the shortage of type-related pilot in command, instructor or examiner, validation of foreign license is done by Directorate General of Civil Aviation, that is DGCA, under provision contained in Rule 45 of the Aircraft Rule 1937, procedure laid down in Civil Aviation Requirements, Section 7, Series G, Part 2, and the provision of Foreign Aircrew Temporary Authorization, FATA. Now, the provisions of FATA are renewed from time to time depending upon the industry requirements. Presently, provisions of FATA is up to 31st of December 2020. Also, the ministry says that to overcome the shortage of pilots, all the scheduled and non-scheduled airlines have been advised to develop their own strength to reduce the dependency on foreign pilots. Accordingly, airlines train their pilot to upgrade them as commanders, pilot in command, to reduce the dependency on foreign pilots. The next question is to the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, and this one is from member Narayan Lal Pancharia, who wants to know from the government whether it has any scheme for promotion of export of agricultural and processed food products.
The government has given a detailed response here, and the government goes on to say that promotion of exports of agricultural and processed food products is an ongoing process. The Agricultural and Processed Food Products Export Development Authority, also called the APEDA, an autonomous organization under the administrative control of the Department of Commerce, has the mandate to promote exports of agricultural and processed food products. APEDA provides assistance to exporters of agricultural and processed food products under various components of a scheme called the Agriculture and Processed Food Export Promotion Scheme of APEDA for infrastructure development, quality development and market development. The government has also introduced the Transport and Marketing Assistance Scheme for Specified Agriculture Products Scheme, which aims to provide assistance for the international component of freight and marketing agricultural produce. In addition, assistance is also available on export of various agricultural and processed food products under the Merchandise Exports from India scheme called the MEIS. Assistance is also provided to exporters or state governments under various other schemes of Department of Commerce, like Trade Infrastructure for Export Scheme and Market Access Initiative Scheme. Assistance or incentives are also provided in other schemes and that are available to exporters, trade promotion organizations and state agencies engaged in export promotion of agricultural products, and benefits farmers, including the small and marginal farmers. Under the Financial Assistance Scheme of APEDA, financial assistance has been provided to Rajasthan State Agriculture Marketing Board for various common infrastructure projects. The next question is by member PL Punya, and this one is also to the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. And Mr. Punya has asked the details of export of Indian products likely to get promoted as a result of ongoing trade war between US and China.
Well, the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, in response to Mr. Punya's question, says that the imposition of tariffs between the US and China provide a window of opportunity for enhancing India's exports to China and the US on products in which India is relatively competitive, particularly in sectors such as mineral products, machinery and mechanical appliances and their parts, electrical machinery and equipment, chemicals, synthetic fibers and textiles, and a few agriculture products such as honey, seafood, etc. Government has sensitized all the trade promotion bodies to work towards enhancing exports by capitalizing on this opportunity arising from the ongoing tariff standoff between the US and China. The extent of increase in export of Indian products towards reducing the trade imbalance would depend upon a number of factors, including the cost competitiveness of the product as compared to the similar product of other competing countries in the Chinese market, and other factors like generation of adequate exportable surpluses, market access, etc. The next question is to the Ministry of Coal, and this one has been asked by member A.K. Selvaraj, who wants to know from the government whether it is a fact that Coal India Limited will acquire enough railway rakes to transport coal to all thermal power plants in the country.
The government in its reply says that Coal India Limited has drawn up a plan to procure wagons to add to the existing pool of railway wagons to enhance the capacity of coal supplies to power plants under General Purpose Wagon Investment Scheme called the GPWIS, circulated by the Indian Railways. For that purpose, a committee has been constituted at CIL to liaison with Railway Board to study and to identify the possible routes for optimum coal evacuation under the initiative. Railway Board has been requested to procure the wagons on behalf of Coal India Limited. There has been an increase of coal dispatch by Coal India Limited. During the fiscal year 2018-19, CIL supplied 608.14 million tons of coal, registering a growth of 4.8% over the dispatch of 580.28 million tons in the year 2017-18. The government further says that in the fiscal 2018-19, an average of 280.7 rakes per day have been sourced from CIL, sidings, goods sheds and washeries against 265.5 rakes per day in the fiscal year 2017-18, thereby achieving a growth rate of 5.7% over the last year. The next question is by member Prabhakar Reddy, Vemi Reddy, and this one is also to the Ministry of Coal. And Mr. Reddy has asked about the disputes in the coal sector and the manner in which the ministry is resolving them.
Well, the Ministry of Coal in its answer says that disputes in the coal sector range from grievances of a coal consumer to employees of coal companies, dispute between coal companies with tax authorities, industrial relations related, land acquisition related, and others not limited to these. Now, these disputes are resolved as per the relevant statute and or the terms of agreement, memorandum of understanding entered between the concerned stakeholders. Further, a mechanism, namely administrative mechanism for resolution of CPSE's disputes has been created by the Department of Public Enterprises on 22nd of May 2018 for resolution of any dispute or difference relating to the interpretation and application of the provisions of commercial contracts between central public sector enterprises, port trusts, and also between CPSEs and government departments, organizations, excluding disputes concerning railways, income tax, customs and excise departments. Also, the ministry says there is no proposal in the ministry to constitute any independent body to resolve these disputes. The last question is to the Ministry of Culture, and this one has been asked by member L. Hanumantaya, and he wants to know from the government about the details of archaeological buildings which have been marked under ASI in the country so far.
In a very specific answer, the government says that there are 3,691 monuments or sites declared centrally protected under the Ancient Monuments and Archaeological Sites and Remains Act 1958 and looked after by the Archaeological Survey of India or the ASI. The government further says that no archaeological buildings have been destroyed and reconstructed as hotels, clubs or complexes. So Vishal, that's all we could pack for our viewers in this edition of Question Hour.
Well, you're right, Kriti, and we'll take a short break here. After the break, our colleagues Arvind Singh and Preeti Singh will bring you some more questions in Prashn Kal. Stay tuned.